Yeah, speaking of Walt, it's hard for me to get a picture of him because I hear things like he was easy to talk to, yet he was terrifying.
Yes.
Would you mind taking a couple of minutes to somehow explain those contradictions? What was he like as a leader to work
Yeah,
for?
yeah. A lot of that, if you ever have the opportunity to visit the Walt Disney Family Museum, that's open now at the Presidio in San Francisco, what we tried to do with the Walt Disney Museum, and this is at the behest of Walt's daughter, Diane, who brought me onto this project about 3 years ago, was to try to capture her dad, the man. People today think about Walt Disney as this sort of corporate icon, and they don't see him as a real person. Walt Disney was a real person. He was a real man. And what's so great about Walt was he was such a simple man. He was such a unsophisticated man. He was basically a farm boy from Marceline, Missouri. Grew up on a farm, tried to make a success in Kansas City, and went broke. Failure, at a young age, which he said was very good for him because that failure took him to California, took him to Hollywood where he started again. And look what he's built. Opened this little studio over in Silver Lake. Didn't know if he would stay afloat from week to week. Brought in all these young kids, guys who were working as delivery boys at a counter, at a lunch counter. They would say, "Gee, Mr. Disney, I want to draw cartoons. Do you think you got a job for me?" And Walt would say, "Well, come on over, kid, and I'll find something for you to do." These guys, these young men and women, almost invented the business, as young men and women. They started doing stuff that had never been done before when they said, "Let's try and add sound to animated cartoons." No one knew how to do it. They kind of made it up, They just had to do it. Walt would pick out a young man and say, "Wilfred, you're a director." Wilfred Jackson had never been to film school, you know. He didn't know how to be a director, but Walt Disney thought he had the potential to be a good director, and Wilfred Jackson directed almost a dozen of the Disney classic features that you see today. I mean, it's just amazing. Walt had this incredible eye for talent, and that's why we like to refer to him as the old maestro, because like a conductor of a symphony, he was able to bring all these talents, writers, designers, performers, sculptors, craftspeople, electricians, technicians, and bring them all together and create great stuff. And people often said, "Well, what do you do, Mr. Disney?" Because Walt didn't really do anything, but in actuality, he did everything because he had to kind of like orchestrate this whole thing and make it all work. But as far as what kind of man he was he terrifying? He could be, because I think we had such respect for him. He could be, the fearsome individual, that comes walking toward you. But if you ever had a chance to sit down and talk with him, as many friends of mine have, they said he was very easygoing. He wasn't a big shot. Certainly, he wasn't a Hollywood big shot, by the way we think of guys today in Hollywood, the high rollers and all that. He was just a very ordinary kind of man.